Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Tony now, and Tony reached out to us. Actually, we've been following each other on LinkedIn and on social media, and Tony reached out at some point and suggested, "Hey, I've got stuff to talk about." And I said, "Cool, let's talk." So, welcome, Tony. Can you introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. My name's Tony Now. I am the founder and chief storytelling officer at T60 Health. We are the healthcare video specialists. And I also am a professional speaker. I speak at marketing conferences and, corporate events and meetings all over the country, all centered around how to do video better for your business. We're in healthcare. We focus on healthcare. A big part of our business is helping private practice owners acquire and retain their patients. We help big health systems with all sorts of video related issues. And so I know you like video, so I thought we should get on and talk some video.
Yeah, let's chat. Let's have a fun talk. So, I love this topic, and I've been doing video for a long time. And back in the early days when we founded the company, I got to direct a lot, which is fun, right? Going out on
Yeah.
site. I can still do once in a while, but it's hard for me to get away. I have other people doing that. But video is a blast. I learned how to edit and shoot early on, and I'm not you as a professional, but that knowledge really helped me be a better director, right? To be able to actually do that stuff, particularly the editing. Editing is actually fun. I really like
Yeah.
editing. But at any rate, not doing those things that much anymore. I'm too busy running the company, but it's fun to have you. So let's just start off by, why is video so important generally and in healthcare particularly?
Well, I mean, if you're in healthcare and you're doing any kind of digital marketing, video is just the best kind of content you can create. I mean, first of all, healthcare is very visual. So it's not like we're having to do a video on an accounting firm or something where it's like, gosh, what's the video going to be? I mean, healthcare is very visual, so that's a good thing. But really, I mean, if you're doing digital marketing in any way, it's basically just like throwing rocket fuel on whatever you're doing. I mean, if you're into social media, social posts that include video get twice as much engagement as anything else you can put on there. If you're adding it to your websites with video are like 66% more likely to convert than a website without video. And I mean, if you're doing any sort of email campaigns, including video in your email campaigns, is amazing. I mean, we see increase in click-through rates up to 300% when you let people know that video is in this email. So it's like I said, it's just like throwing rocket fuel on whatever you're doing.
That's awesome. That's a really good reminder too. It's funny, we were talking on a recent podcast with Brian Massey, who's the conversion scientist, and he talked about the video is important, but that title card is really important when it comes to
Oh
getting people
yeah.
to click through. So, but you have to have something there. You can't just hope nobody clicks through to see the video. There actually has to be one there. So, as a healthcare success works a lot with, multi-location providers, hospitals, health systems, and other kinds of companies. And I know you're working with those as well as, some private practice doctors. But broadly speaking, what are the biggest mistakes you see healthcare companies make when it comes to video?
I think it's just a lack of a plan, lack of a strategy. I mean, like they might include video as part of their greater strategy. Like we want to do video, and that's part of the strategy. But there's no like real definition or plan to doing that video because every video needs its own strategy for success. And so I think, if people take just a little bit of time at the very beginning of the video project to put together a basic kind of strategy for how this video is going to help us and what our goal is and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's so much more likely that that video is going to be able to help their marketing overall.
It's so funny. It's so classically in healthcare that so often the tactic leads to strategy. There's no like, we're going to do video. Okay, let's go do video.
Correct.
Like, you okay? Like, how are you going to use it? How are you going to leverage it? You mentioned some of my favorite things. We love video for paid social advertising in particular.
Mhm.
We love video for the website. Email is something that we do and we should probably do more of. But I think the strategy is really crucial. And I'll just throw in my own 2 cents here, and you can expand upon this later. But one of the biggest things for us when we're working with clients on video, a lot of times, especially if we're doing a live shoot, we're making every ounce of effort we can to that. So like a lot of times when we do shoots, we'll get the footage we need for a commercial. We'll do patient interviews, doctor interviews, B-roll, testimonials. And then we're also thinking how we're going to use this, like, on YouTube, on Facebook, how long, what should it be? What snippets are we looking for? I'm assuming you see a lot of that too. It's like to try to maximize that live shoot as much as you can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we tell our customers all the time, you have us there for the day. So let's utilize us in that moment the best we can. Let's get you the most you can out of that day for that shoot, or however long the shoot ends up being, 2 or 3 days, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, what video projects do you have on the horizon? Like, what are some things that you've been wanting to do that maybe you haven't gotten to yet? Because the shoot will probably take us this long. We've got some additional time that we can play with here and get you some additional assets. So let's be strategic about thinking about this and how we can maximize the video shoot.
That pre-shoot planning and production process is so important to think through what exactly you're trying to walk away with.
Yeah.
And little stuff like that we've seen, like a lot of times if I'm looking for stills, I'll get a separate photographer there because I just find we never think about it when we're just shooting. If we're there shooting, it's like,
and a lot of times people, customers will ask us, well, can you shoot some stills? And, the answer is yes, but we're there focused on the video. Like, I love hearing you say that you'll hire a separate photographer, because that is a much better,
it just
thing to
doesn't
do
work.
than
Like
to
we'll get
just
all the way
hope
through
that
the
the video
yeah, we'll get all the way through the
works.
shoot and go, wait, we forgot. Because we're focused on video. If we're there for video, we get video.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really time flies, setups are hard, there's noise, there's different stuff that you had anticipated, the plants are all dusty, whatever. It's like, by the way, Tony, I just got to tell you, in healthcare facilities, please God, not another beige room with dusty
Oh, man.
plants.
Yeah.
Just
Well, and it's so
okay.
funny. I mean, it's because there are so many great places where you can do video shoots, but I understand a lot of times when you get into the hospital, it's like, I mean, they're there taking care of people,
Right,
It's like
right.
they might not have an exam room available for you to use for a video shoot or whatever, but man, if you can, it's a great place to shoot. Hospitals have all sorts of interesting looking rooms.
Planning is everything. So let's
Yep.
talk about, we kind of already started on this discussion, but what other types of videos? We talked about some of them, but what are some of your favorite, categories of videos to think about?
Sure. I mean, we always think of just in terms of the customer journey, just like a lot of marketers do. So, we're thinking about, what are different types of videos that we can do for awareness? What can we do for like an interest or middle of the funnel stage? And then what can we do for conversion? And I mean, right now, sort of the three that I think of for those different areas. I mean, right now the vertical videos are absolutely going crazy. I mean, everybody wants them, everybody's watching them, and those are great for the top of the funnel. Whether it's answering FAQs or just whatever you can do to just provide value to people and make them aware that you're out there. They're really fantastic videos to do. And then in the middle of the funnel, we really are a big fan of any sort of product or service videos that you can do it there. Whatever you're trying to sell, whatever you're trying to offer the world in some way, doing videos on those things are great for the middle of the funnel. And then for the conversion, I just don't know if there's anything any better than a testimonial. And I mean, honestly, those are the ones that I probably get most excited about because they tend to tell a real personal story in some way. And those are the most fun for us, is where, we really get to let our storytelling, abilities come forward. And, that's the fun part.
It's really funny. I mean, we do this for a living, and there's a couple things you've already reminded me of that we know better, we just haven't done lately. So you mentioned email later earlier, like, yeah, we haven't done email videos as often as we should. And then the other thing was, I just had a podcast interview with a former client, and he did the most fantastic testimonial, completely unsolicited, unexpected. And so I put the words on our website, but I've got the video. It's like,
Yes, yes,
oh
use
my
that
God, I can't
video
believe I
soon. Come
didn't, I
on.
forgot to do that. Yeah. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, he's already given me permission to use it everywhere, and I just haven't thought to use the video. Duh. Oh well. So I make mistakes too. What can I tell you? So, healthcare marketers already have a full plate. I sure know I do. Like how detailed does the strategy have to be, like when you're thinking about this stuff?
Well, I mean, first of all, any strategy is better than no strategy. So if, all you can manage is a paragraph of this is what we're trying to do. I usually tell people, when they're starting a video project, really all they have to do is answer 5 questions. Start with who's our audience, then you move on to what's our goal, how are we going to measure success, what's our story, and how are we going to promote the video? And if you can answer those 5 questions, that's a starter video strategy right there. And I mean, you're certainly welcome to expand on that in any way you want. But if all you do is answer those 5 questions, you're already like ahead of the game. That is more than what most people do when they start the video production process. So that's a great start.
I love that. We'll make sure to put that in the notes too. The because that is certainly important. And again, like I said, I can't stress the importance of pre-planning when our agency does video shoots for any kind. It's like to really think through all those details. And not just like, can we shoot, or we're going to shoot in a park, do we need a permit? That's maybe a little bit more advanced, but something you need to think about. But like, what is it we're going to do? Start there. Like, what are you
Yeah.
trying to end up with? Like, let's make sure we have that. Um,
Well, Stuart, I think the funny thing is that so many like video projects get started with like somebody raising their hand in a meeting and saying, let's do a video. And like everybody just gets all excited about it. And maybe somebody has like a really good creative idea for a video, but a creative idea is not a strategy. You
right.
need the strategy first, then move on to the creative idea.
That makes all the sense. So the anything else on the strategy side that people should be aware of? Like we mentioned the 5 strategies, but beyond that, let me change the topic a little bit. The
Sure.
uh the professional video production, like the cost is always an issue, right? And
Mhm.
oh my gosh, there's always somebody cheaper, no matter what you do, right? Free. Wait, they'll pay me to do your video. Okay,
Yeah.
so like, what are the costs? What should people and I'd love to hear some ranges and some different options for people.
I mean, it really runs the gambit. I mean, you could certainly, find video production for, $1,000, $3,000, The thing that I will say, and it'll, go all the way up to $50,000 if you want. I mean, it
Or it
really
can go a
runs the
lot more than
gambit. But
that.
but the thing is that it's interesting and like as far as like where we fall in, I think we're very like middle of the road when it comes to cost. And what I tell people all the time is when it comes to video, you really do kind of get what you pay for, and it's you can, like you just said, you can always find somebody that'll do it for less. You can
Yeah,
always find that. But you really do kind of get what you pay for. So it's like if you pay $3,000 for a video, is a $7,000 or $8,000 video going to be that much better than a $3,000 video? Yeah, it will. It really
yeah.
will. And as you start going up the ladder there's so many different things that factor into it, the size of a team, the equipment that's being used, and the bigger that budget is, the more of that stuff you get, and all of that translates typically to a better video.
Yeah, for sure. And when we get into, depending on the institution, it can be way 6 figures, right? For depending on the project. So, but most
Sure.
of our clients are looking for something, more in the um lesser expensive range than 6 figures. And you can do a lot, it just depends on the
Oh
situation
yeah.
and what do you need for equipment. And, like so often, I could do a shoot with a good shooter, with somebody on our team directing and maybe somebody doing a PA and sound and lighting and the whole thing. And like, you've got kind of a guerrilla team. And then otherwise, sometimes it's more complicated. Sometimes we're doing multiple shoots at the same time. All of that just factors into the cost. But those are things that you can sort through. It does take some money though. And sometimes, at
Sure.
least with our agency, Tony, we'll do live shoots. We can do, um, existing, like sometimes we'll supplement live shoot footage with stock footage. Sometimes we supplement with like, and they do the Gorilla stuff internally with your iPhone. Fine.
Right.
That could be your organic social. But if we're going to do this over here, we need to get that shot professionally. So it is again having the right strategy and investing where it makes sense and doing it right because it is all the difference in the world for sure. And so like,
Exactly.
I mentioned about the DIY stuff. What is, like help me sort that through. Like when is it okay to
Sure.
be DIY and when should I hire pros and how do I convince my boss and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, in terms of what to DIY and what not to DIY, I mean, those top of the funnel videos, those awareness videos, those vertical videos and things, I don't have any problem with people doing DIY videos for those. I mean, I think those are great, because they're short, they don't require a lot of post-production work. You can be pretty lean and mean with those, and I think it's totally fine to do those yourself from in most cases. Where I say you should be thinking about hiring a video production company is for the videos that are a bit more high leverage. Any video that's going to potentially help you convert somebody into a customer or a patient. Like those are the videos that you want to spend a little more on to get some professional help on, because those are the ones that are going to put people over the top and turn them into customers or patients. So it's like the DIY, the ones that are just making people aware of you. And as you get closer to that conversion, that's when we want to start spending on a video production company.
That's totally makes sense. I'll maybe expand upon that. So some things just happen right away, spur of the moment. You either take advantage of it or you don't, right? So it's
Yeah.
like it's going to be gone forever. You didn't plan on a shoot. You're at a health fair. Somebody said something amazing about you. Get it. They're there.
Yeah.
They're in the moment. Um, excuse me. Another thing that, like one of the things we talk about a lot, Tony, is with our agency, there's a big, big difference between paid social and organic social. So organic social is fun. Everybody likes it. We've got, we're posting every other day. We're doing a health fair. We're at an event. Somebody brought their puppies in to give away or to spend time with the elderly patients. That's all great. That's not going to make you any money. So organic is great and we think you should do it. And it's also really good. What does organic do? It helps you, um, kind of build a sort of organic brand feel. Definitely appeals to potential employees considering culture. It's a feel good thing, but it's not going to draw lots of patients. That's the thing. It's like if you're looking for patients, organic. The problem is the algorithms are set up that even if first of all, getting 1,000 followers is really hard. And when you
Hmm.
do, almost nobody's going to see your video anyway. And then those are people that know you. So those kind of things, I think organic social media would make sense for organic kinds of video. It's like put out lots of
Yeah.
stuff. It's easy. It doesn't require a lot of planning. But if you're doing paid social and you're trying to convert people, because paid social, on the other hand, costs money, but then you can reach tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people very cost
Yeah.
effectively. That's where it starts making more sense to think about professional video or part of your larger brand or assets you'll keep on your website for a long time, like the doctor interviews or the patient testimonials or all that stuff. So I totally agree. So if it's really sort of organic and fleeting, then certainly, it may not be practical to have a private, a professional shooter at an event that, cost you was a free event and to have a professional shooter be your big cost may not make sense. But if
Yeah.
you're, on the other hand, if you're doing a CME seminar and you want to have this kept around in perpetuity, then you probably want a shooter because it's a big, 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 big difference. Um,
Yeah.
have you done it? This is not something we talked about beforehand, but did you ever do live streaming? Is that something that you see much of, or is that, the future? What do you think?
Right. We don't do a lot of that sort of thing. We've done a little bit of it, but I mean, when you do anything live, I think it kind of takes things up a notch for people because it's like when we're putting together any kind of a video, the thing that we're most often striving for is authenticity. And so when you have a live video, boy, it's going to be authentic. you know, there
That's
this this
true.
this is as authentic as it gets.
Yeah.
So I think that's why live video tends to really catch people's attention, and you know that this is going to be authentic and genuine because it's happening right now, and we're not
Yeah.
going to have time to polish it and make it look all fancy and good and everything. And I think there's an appeal to that.
Yeah, and if the patient decides they want to take this opportunity to tell you all the things you're doing wrong, that it's live, baby. So let's talk about, like, I mentioned earlier, I think we both have kind of hinted around this, but making a shoot successful. Like, what do you think are some of the critical success factors to help ensure that you've got a successful shoot and you get what you
I,
need?
you know, First and foremost, make sure everybody who's involved with the shoot knows when the shoot is happening, where the shoot is going to take place, how long it's going to be, all of the logistical stuff. The more you can communicate with everybody, the smoother it's all going to go. I cannot tell you how many times we have shown up to a location and they're like, what video shoot? What are you talking about? Like, it happens more frequently than I would like. So it's like,
Wow.
really make sure that everybody knows, everybody's on the same page in terms of all the logistics of that. And then it's all sorts of stuff in terms of, let's make sure the facility looks nice, that it's clean, make sure that the environment you're going to do interviews in, if you're doing that, make sure that there's no echo in the room, make sure that it's a nice, quiet place. Just all of that kind of stuff. Make sure that the people who are going to be in the videos are properly prepared. They know what they're going to have to talk about. I'm not big on, giving them scripts to memorize or anything like that, but, there should be an understanding of what they're going to have to discuss that day in that interview so that they're not caught off guard by anything. So it's all just stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll just give you some stories that I think are fun before we wrap up here. We talked about some of the other things we're thinking about is number one, getting releases,
Oh, yeah.
having releases available, both from a HIPAA standpoint as well as from a rights standpoint.
Mhm.
So that's really critical. You mentioned getting this people to the staff knowing what to expect. If we're flying in, sometimes we'll do a quick FaceTime tour to get an idea of what we're walking into before we get
Mhm.
there. Sometimes like a lot of times we'll fly in the night before and scout so we know what we're shooting
Yeah.
before we end up live there. Sometimes we shoot after hours. I would add corralling. If you're working with doctors, you need plan A, B, and C
Oh,
contingencies
yeah.
and making it easy on them to participate because you're just going to be wasting a lot of time sitting around waiting for people if you don't plan that right. I've
Yep.
had people do, by the way, like their annual doctor meeting, doing it then because then they're captive, right? So really think through all those little things because it really matters. And I mentioned like releases. It'd be a disaster to go all the way out there and then you get people that you interviewed and you forget to get a release, you don't even know who they are. Guess what? You can't use it. If it's a HIPAA thing,
Right.
you can't use it. It's just worthless. So those
Yeah.
little things matter. So you want to make sure you have production and be ready once you're there for stuff that comes up. Like I remember one shoot we were shooting this beautiful commercial. The model is beautiful. It's in Palm Springs. The sun's going down, and then all of a sudden, some guy is like blowing the leaves and doesn't want to quit. So in this case, I was lucky. My our production manager that particular time was, I'll just put it this way, she was really able to persuade this guy to leave, and I couldn't have done it. And it's like that's real. They just would not. They just sort of ignored me. They don't care. They're just blowing. So it's like, and having that flexibility. I've shot, once we shot this facility, the only place they had that was any good for shooting was their lobby, and right next door to a school. So we had to literally shoot with depth of field and when the recess was on, so we didn't hear all the kids in the background. And so
Mhm.
you have to be flexible, and sometimes the best stuff comes like that. Um, I just give another one of my favorites here is, a lot of times I fib, lie, I don't know, but I'll tell the interviewer, oh, don't worry, the camera's rolling just for lighting, don't even worry, just tell me what you're going to say. And so they'll give their testimonial, whatever it is, without feeling like they're not practicing, they're not on.
Right.
And they'll give us some really great story. And then when they tell them, okay, we're rolling now, it's like,
My favorite story on flexibility, Stuart, that I've ever had is we were interviewing a healthcare CEO at his house. He didn't have time during the day, so we went to his house at like 7 o'clock at night. And he said, "Oh, you can do the interview wherever you want." So we started looking around the house. Beautiful house, but it was like all hard surfaces, and even the floor was like a hard tile. Like every room had this terrible echo in it. And we're like, what are we gonna do? And we start looking around. We're like, let's go out in the backyard. Maybe there's like something we can do back here. There's like a road in the backyard, and there's cars going by. And so I start looking around. We finally found this one spot, and I remember going to him, And I said, you're going to think we're absolutely crazy, but we found the right spot for your interview. And I take him out to the front and I sit him down in front of a privacy wall with his garbage cans right behind it. And I said, when you start showing this video to your friends, let them watch the video and then tell them afterwards where we shot where we shot your interview, and you now have a great behind the scenes story about this production. So yeah, a garbage can privacy wall or retaining wall, was the backdrop, but it was beautiful. It was like beautiful stone, really cool texture. We lit it really well and it looked awesome.
That's the thing. It's like having that kind of knowledge of how to light, how to find the right spot, thinking about sound. Outdoors is always hard, but worth it often. I shoot outdoors a lot when we do this sort of stuff, and I'm sure you do too. But there's just a lot to consider, and that's when a pro makes all the difference in the world. And I can tell from talking to Tony, I love this stuff. I wish I got to do it personally more often. Again, I never was the shooter, but directing this stuff is fun, and it's just a really fun thing. Any last comments? I'd love to actually ask one comment because I alluded to this earlier, but any tips on editing? Because I think editing is so much of it. Any specific tips there that you think is so important?
Just try to keep it tight, try to keep it tight. I think everybody gets into the edit bay and, they have all this great material and they want to use it all, and you can't. You just can't. And so it's like, you want to try to keep it as tight as possible. And if something can be cut, it gets cut, I'd rather have it be a little shorter.
I'll give you my favorite story as we wrap up. One of my favorites. So I've learned all this stuff by doing it. So I took a screenwriting class years ago, a couple of them, and I went to I was invited to go to I guess the writers, they had like this sort of next level writer thing. So they invited me to that. And I remember forget Joe, my instructor, was like, okay, here's your script. He's like, start here, out there, cut and basically cut 2/3 of it. You don't need all that other stuff, all that other exposition. It's like that in editing. It's like curating is the game, right? Being choosy. Hey, Tony, I'll be sure to put your notes in the on the podcast post, but how do people reach out to you?
They can go to healthcarevideospecialists.com. That's where you'll find us and, get in touch.
And if you're looking for a larger shoot where you want an agency to help you, certainly I'm happy to partner with Tony on this stuff, and you guys know how to reach out to us. So Tony, it was a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll talk again soon on a project.
Yes, absolutely. Stuart, thank you very much for having me on.
All right, take care.